Welcome back, everybody. Learn Commercial Module number 6. This is Robert Creamer. Today we're talking about developing or repositioning an asset, which can be really exciting because that's really how you force that appreciation and really have some massive jumps in your net worth. So all the syndicators are looking at this. I'm sure you've seen it. You've probably seen them run through some numbers on a webinar, right? It's good stuff. And we will have on the live training call in this section, we are going to have an expert in syndications come and talk about what do we look for, what are the numbers, what are the metrics we have to see in order to say yes and pull the trigger and buy this property. So it's going to be really exciting. But for now, let's hop into the module. And let me share the screen real quick. Screen number 2. Let's go. Let me make sure we're good. Let's go. All right, so developing or repositioning. Why should I develop or reposition my asset? We're repositioning yesterday's buildings for today's changing workplace, workforce, economy, the needs. If your retail center is tired because every retailer left the area, you're the last one standing, but everything is turning into entertainment, industrial, or whatever, you got to change with it, right? Or find a way to revitalize it. All right, when should a commercial asset be repositioned? When leasing activities have been abnormally slow, you're losing deals to newer or more attractive buildings with better amenities, when it's time to increase the value of your asset or just simply stay competitive, right? Real estate is ever changing, right? On the residential side, new developments are popping up everywhere. The older neighborhoods are needing to be spruced up. The hot neighborhoods are torn down and rebuilt. Downtowns are going more vertical, right? New alterations are happening all around us. Look at Vegas. Vegas is redeveloping, repositioning, reinventing itself like every 5 years, right? That's probably the most extreme. But every city has it. We just don't pay attention because it's a slow transition. We're not seeing all of a sudden an entire area just be altered. It's just usually a slow, one building here, then the next building, then the next building. All right, so I mean, basically the terminology is just a little bit different, but they kind of mean the same thing. So redevelopment, any new construction on a site that has pre-existing uses. It's the replacement or repurposing of existing improvements on an already developed site. And the definition of repositioning is the strategic use of renovations and improvements on a property in order to change its place in the marketplace, ranging from upgrading a building to be more modern, all the way to a complete overhaul that changes the building's purpose. But they're both meaning the same thing. We're both just, we are adapting, we're changing, we're bringing it back to the current market, the current year, where we need to be to stay competitive, to re-engage the brokers to want to bring tenants here, to re-engage the community to get excited, to want to come shop here, to want to come office here, to want to live here, right? Just a great example, you look at some of these cities. So downtown Dallas, for example, lost a lot of residential, or lost a lot of people who wanted to live downtown. It used to be all office, and with the change in the economics of how the downtown needed to function, a lot of the office users left, went up north, went to the suburb, went to the outskirts, went closer to the airport, whatever it is. That was with the growth of Dallas, right? Because Dallas is a massive MSA. So with that, you left a lot of vacancy, a lot of opportunity for the city to come together and formulate a plan saying, how can we get downtown to be an exciting place to come back to? Who wants to come here, right? So what they did was they created more loft style housing, more restaurants, more bars. They cleaned up the streets, tried to make it more of a safer environment, had parades, had fairs, had outdoor events for children, for families, for dogs, created more green space near downtown, right? They wanted the downtown, not the uptowns or the outskirts like Oak Cliff or the West Elm, right? We wanted downtown to be revitalized. We saw the same thing in San Antonio right now. In the last 5 years, downtown San Antonio, Texas has gone through some major transitions, major new development, new construction, new energy is coming into downtown. And it's awesome. It's gonna happen in a lot of cities, not everywhere, but it's pretty cool to see. All right, what is a good candidate for repositioning? Maybe the better question is, how do you stack up to the competition, right? How do we bring back the consumer? How do we get them to want to come back to us? What drove them away in the first place? What's the next generation going to want that if we do this now, it should start attracting that attention? Right? Do you want to stay relevant, leased, competitive, up to date? We used to see mainly Class C properties spending money to increase the rent and attract clients. But now with the ever-changing environment, we're seeing Class A, Class B, and even newer assets needing to spend money to stay relevant and competitive. More people want amenities, open, and comfort. We saw this launch of WeWork, this launch of this co-working environment, the launch of the tech companies booming, right? The Amazons using robotics. We saw Facebook with floor plates full of games and rest areas and lounge. Google has the same thing on your Google campus. It's just becoming a different environment than it formerly was, which is great. It's adapting. Things are changing to what the current staff, the current economics make sense to do. You want to keep your employees happy. Employee dynamics are shifting, right? The needs and desires of millennials is way different than Gen X. We got to shift. Like some of these towers of apartments, right? Generally speaking, you're going to have your when you mentally think of an apartment complex, right? You're thinking of you're driving into. They're going to have 20 or 30 buildings. They're kind of in a loop. When you drive up, you're going to see the amenity center and the leasing office, and behind that's going to be the pool, and you have parking right there. Then you have all the buildings, 2 or 3 stories. 30, 40 units per building. You have 20 buildings, whatever it's you mentally think of. But some of these are towers. They go 30, 40 stories, and instead of just having a pool and maybe a pickleball court or a tennis court, they have an entire floor of amenities. They have an entire gym in place, a movie theater, outdoor deck with the pool with seating, right? That's becoming more prevalent. An entire floor just for amenities, a coffee shop, a restaurant inside, a bar, happy hours for the tenants, right? Things are just changing. And that is not only for multifamily. It's not so much retail industrial, but in the office and multifamily environment, tons of changes. And it's, again, like I said, it's not about now. It's about the long-term play. So whatever we want, we are the employees, we are the users, we are the renters. This is what we want because this is the things that were done should have been to take care of us. But now we need to start thinking, okay, 10 years behind us, what are they going to want to see when they get to our age, when they're the next working force? What's important to them right now, and what can we move in the direction to make it make sense for them? That's a tough question to ask, but it's needed. You don't want to keep slapping Band-Aids every 3 to 5 years. If you can jump that as fast as possible, you're going to save a lot of money. All right, so the benefits of repositioning and how to figure out what to do. All right, it re-energizes your property for one. Get the current tenants excited, you get showcased again in your market correctly. Yeah, you get showcased, sorry, I just read that kind of weird. You get showcased again in your market correctly. You don't look like the tired old building again. You attract new tenants and show the tenant rep brokers a new asset. If the tenant rep brokers are excited, you will see activity. Not to mention you are increasing the value of your asset, much like a home renovation, right? You want to get the tenants and the brokers excited. If they're happy, you'll see it. If the brokers can see there's movement, there's energy, there's things happening, they're going to tell their tenants who are looking, I always wanted to be over here near this part of town. Yeah, but I don't know if you've heard, but they just redid this entire center over here. We got to go take a look. It's going to happen. I would ask your tenant rep again, or the agents, what they are seeing in the area. Are they seeing more outdoor space, new paint, new overall appearance, entertainment room, better lobby, less or more landscaping, right? What are people being drawn to? Where's the most leasing activity happening and why? Figure out the why, and then figure out what does that cost look like? That building's brand new, but it's very similar to ours, but they're able to at a 30% cost increase because of the location. Well, if we can't fix that, what can we do to draw people back in? Right? What will it take to align my building with the specific tenant base? Sometimes you want to lean on the medical. Sometimes you want to lean on tech because of your location. What can we do to provide more value to get them excited to come live here, rent here, work here? Right? What needs to happen and how long is it going to take? All right, after you've asked, researched, toured, received feedback from current tenants, itemize a list of importance, then go talk to a GC. We need to get a game plan of if we just do the bare minimum to if we do everything. If we do, let's say an A, B, and a C category where C is just okay, then you have good, then you have best. What does that look like? What does a hybrid look like? Because we need to gauge how much money can we spend to get the maximum bang for our buck, and then how much of that rent can we actually increase to make it make sense. If you can't increase the rent at all, what's the point of spending money? You're just spending money. You're not going to make anything off of it. That's tough. That's a tough reposition. At that point, sometimes people just maintain the course if they can, and then when the time comes, they sell it. All right, and remember, this is always what the market and tenants want, right? Take your ego out of it. Never let your ego or emotions get involved. Happy tenants stay. Now, I say happy tenants. It could be a happy tenant, but they'll be much happier if you re-energize the center and they have a lot more drive-by, walk-by traffic. Or, of course, if you're a resident, your tenants will be much happier if you add more amenities. They get re-excited. All right, repositioning time will depend on, and I say resident because we're actually going to go through a repositioning here in a moment. All right, repositioning time will depend on the extent of your renovations and availability of work crews. That's going to vary on a lot of different factors. This process could take up to a year, right? So plan accordingly, because you're going to have to worry about the planning, engineer, permitting, and construction. Of course, for a smaller facelift, if it's just paint, redoing the blinds and windows, that could be 30 days. But the larger the renovation, the longer it's going to take, obviously. And remember, work through as many vacancies as you can first to limit the downtime and interruption in leasing activity. And you know, not just being the broker to help our clients, but if you look at it from an investor or owner perspective, you know, we keep mentioning the end game. Why did they buy this? What are they going to do with it? Right? So is the asset performing at market rate? How can it be improved to increase financial performance? Right? Because they care about the bottom line. What is the potential here? What's the maximum best use of this property? Is this a hold or invest for resale? What's the end game for this owner? How much can we invest to get the best return for our money? Has the rental income been maximized? Have we raised rents in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Can we reduce any of our expenses? Can we beat up the taxes because the center looks tired? What about insurance? Have we called on insurance to get different quotes? What about CAM? What about property management? Right? People forget that the other companies also want to stay competitive. So they will discount their prices. They will fight for your business if you start making phone calls. Visibility, history, or access can make location a primary driver. Likewise, a building in a less than desirable area can reduce real estate costs, meaning when you buy it, you're buying it at a much discounted price because of the location. So it makes the point, cost to the point, major modifications make more sense. So you're buying the actual real estate at such a discount, spending more money to get the property back to where it should be. It makes more sense than if you're buying in a central business district and you're paying a super premium and then having to reposition. Like, you know, that can get out of control because there's no guarantees in this business. All right, advantages of repositioning or using the existing structure. All right, so the existing building can save you money on construction costs. Not always, but it can. If you have a large retail center, right, you're not redeveloping it. If you can use the current building, just throw some new facade on there, new roof, make it look badass, rock and roll. All right, it's generally faster to renovate because you don't need to do engineering drawings, redo the foundation, plumbing. That can get costly and timely. If it has any heritage or historical value and elements, potentially larger floor plates. A lot of these older buildings in CBD had pretty large floor plates, pretty wide open. Building story and possibly some unique, cool features. If you're in some of the bigger cities that were large in the manufacturing, or banking like Dallas was. Some of these old buildings are just awesome. We have one called Southside Lamar. It used to be an old bank. I mean, massive towers. They have offices up top. What they turned it into was apartments that look like lofts. And then they have restaurants and bars on the outside. And downstairs, they still have the vault cast iron doors in the building that are left wide. It's just really cool and unique. A lot of old cities like Chicago, New York, right? They have some really awesome old school structures, right? It's a value added for the community. You're improving that asset. You're generating income and more taxes for former idle buildings. You're creating jobs. You're going to have government support because you're making it more aesthetically pleasing. You can raise the rents, more taxes, your value, your property increases, your taxes are going to go up. Increase sales price per foot, increase land values of surrounding real estate, right? Everybody's winning with you. You're pulling up the neighborhood. All right, there are some challenges though, and some of them are the exact same as the wins, right? Getting approvals can be very time consuming because it's an old building. Do we have historical preservation? How much damage are we gonna do to the physical current structure to get what you need done? With large scale renovations, structural upgrading can become very costly, right? You may be landlocked. You may not be able to get to the outside. There could be a building slammed on both sides of you. That can be pretty tough. For the most part, you must work within the current floor plan, right? The older buildings are just built differently. And we'll talk about that here in a second. All right, major renovations also generally mean all systems and requirements need to be brought to today's building regulations, like ADA, elevators, right? Plumbing, electric. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, which can be extremely costly and not easy to do. Now, it doesn't always be the case, because if you have a historical designation and you're landlocked, there obviously is some times that they're going to say, we realize what you're dealing with, what you're up against, and we understand what you're trying to do, which is going to improve our community, which is going to bring more tax revenue, which is going to bring more jobs. We're not going to worry about elevators, or we're not going to worry about whatever. All right, reworking the internal and external piping for heating, cooling, plumbing can be very expensive. I mean, some of that stuff is cast iron on the outside of the building. And so if you take that off, you're going to destroy the facade. That can be pretty crazy. All right, older access, entrances, exits may not work with the new business model. There may not be a great fire exit. So that can be a problem for insurance and the CO, right? Must have neighbor buy-in, otherwise they can complain about anything causing delays, right? So if you are changing any zoning or repositioning at a large level, sometimes you have to go get permitting and approval from the local governing authority, and they have to notify the neighboring tenants, whether they be residential or whatever, and they can come out, they can protest. So it just depends on where you are and what you're doing. One of the coolest repositioning, redevelopments I've seen, it wasn't a rezone, but in Dallas, there's a building on Irvay, which is downtown by the, not the courthouse, yeah, by the courthouse, by downtown courthouse. And it was like 510,000 square feet, and then it had a parking garage next to it, right? This has been abandoned for like 12 or 15 years. I mean, the escalators were imploded. It was down to the studs. There was vagrants in it every night. It was pretty crazy, but it was right on the south side of down, is City Hall. It was by City Hall, there you go. I don't know if I said City Hall a minute ago, but City Hall. So you could go on the rooftop and you were right on the south side of downtown. It was an awesome view. There's so much creative ideas that could have happened here, but nobody wanted to buy it because you're buying a 510,000 square foot building in dire need of extreme makeover, and it doesn't make sense to knock it down because restarting that project, what you're going to pay for it, doesn't make any sense. It's going to cost an arm and a leg. So what happened was nobody bought it. The owner went in default. The city went to the owner and they basically agreed to sell it to this developer for like $500,000, 510,000 square feet of real estate. I had a buyer, I toured the property. They thought it was too risky. I'm pulling my hair out. I'm freaking out. Like, this is a massive win. They didn't see it at the time. The seller wanted like 4 million. It still made sense to me. We even budgeted in. We were looking at $80 to $120 million of cost to get this building up and running. But the long-term win was massive. So what happened was these guys bought it for $500,000. They went to the city and said, hey, we want to turn this building built in 1901 back to its former glory. We're going to redo the facade of the building, but we need some help. We can't find this material. We're going to need some help. We may not be able to touch all of it up. The city came in and gave them $28 million to help renovate the exterior and parts of the interior, including renovating the rooftop and all the HVACs. So they got $28 million back from the city. They got like $30 million in tax abatements. All in, they were into it about $65 or $70 million to complete the renovation. They turned the bottom into a hotel. Then they had office and retail on top of it. I mean, massive win. And it was really cool to watch the progression. That's cool. I wanted to work on that project. Dang it. All right, but jumps in net worth. That is a massive jump in the owner's net worth, right? Some of the biggest jumps in net worth are when you can take an underperforming asset, renovate, reposition it, then reestablish their value in the marketplace, right? You are forcing the appreciation. We see this that's when you see this massive upside. It's tough to find, but massively valuable when you do. And syndicators look for this daily. This is what syndicators do. And syndicators, again, it's just a group of people pooling their money together. They have a manager kind of in charge of the group. They go find the asset, evaluate the asset, basically pitch it to the group. They go in, do due diligence, buy it. Then they go in there, they rehab, renovate, refinance, pull cash out, hold on to it 5 to 7 years, sell it, do it again. Keep rolling that money over. But syndicators do this all the time. So when we do go through the live training on this, we will bring a syndicator in and they're going to show us the metrics, why they buy it, what they like to see, what they have to see, why it's a win for them as the manager, why it's a win for the people in the syndication, and how you can get involved in a syndication. And I mean, the end goal of Learn Commercial could be to have a syndication group amongst us. And then let's go buy assets. Why? I mean, we're already going to win together by growing together. Let's go and invest and make money together, right? Let's do it. All right, so right now we got a couple renovation pictures. There's a before, looks like an office or warehouse, just beat up old building. It looks tired. Tesla came in, bought it, redid it. I mean, that looks pretty sharp now. They did a great job. That's a great reposition, right? In the city, you got to think they love that. Here's another one. This is just a typical kind of late 80s, early 90s office on the left. Looks tired, you know, nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't excite you walking in there, right? The one on the right, you feel better. You walk with your head held up a little higher, feel a little more confident walking to the office. And on top of it, you can charge more rent. The one on the left, if it's in our market, I don't think I'm paying more than 12 bucks a foot plus nets there. The one on the right, I could see, you know, getting up to 20 bucks a foot plus nets. That's a big jump. And they didn't do that much work. They changed the tile out, got better tile on the ground, redid a little bit of recessed lighting, new paint. Not a ton of work. Now it does add up, but it's not a ton of work. Now this building looks really tired. The one on the top, it says Randall Construction Inc. I mean, I don't know if that's an old bowling alley or an old motel or if residential's on top. I mean, that French Chateau crap roof, I hate those. That siding on the top picture, that is awful. That's one of the worst roofs. I hate those. They're ugly. Can't believe they like that. That's so terrible. But look at that renovation. That looks awesome. Turn it into an entertainment center with bowling. So there could be a chance this was a bowling alley, but that's a great reposition right there. Talk about revitalizing a building. That looks amazing. Again, here's another one. You could see either of these buildings in your smaller towns outside of your main city. That's at the square, the town square. That's a perfect example of a building you'd see there. They could have retail or office in the bottom. The courthouse could be in the center. It could be in the square, right? The bottom, they just made it look better. Now this picture's bad. I'm really sorry about that. So this picture, though, the before, the left doesn't look bad. It just looks like, you know, they chose a nasty yellow paint color. It didn't look bad, but what looks better? The one on the right looks much better. I would much rather, if I saw these two apartments side by side, everything was identical, I would be okay paying 20 bucks, $25 more just because of that paint job on the right. Why? It makes me feel better when I look at it. Aesthetics matter. How I visually see coming home matters. Same with your office. How you physically feel walking into your office matters. Do you get excited about going to work? Or is it like Office Space where you're dreading it? You know, Milton from Office Space. Look at this. That bottom one, again, looks tired, bad color palette, didn't do a great job, just doesn't look good. The one on the top, that looks modern. Looks like it's in Arizona, but looks great. I like it. It makes the center re-energized. And what I've seen lately in some really cool renovations are people are not only using one or two types of building material. The coolest buildings I've seen are using 4. They're using a combination some way of metal, stucco, brick, and wood. There's some just really cool I mean, it costs a little more money, but man, aesthetically wise, and this is on houses too. I've seen some just amazing houses using more than 2 or 3 construction styles, building materials. All right, so should we redevelop, reposition, or not? You know, what might the numbers look like? Because it's all fun and games that you could look at a property and say, that looks like crap. I need to spend money to make it look better. Wow, now I have a great center, but can I recoup my costs? Right? All right, so how to work through a potential repositioning. All right, so we're gonna run through an example here real quick. So bear with me. I didn't want to throw it all on one page because it is a lot of information. So I did the little, the animation to try and have these things come in. All right, so let's assume we're buying a 36 unit community in Texas. And I say community, it's just a multifamily complex. We're paying $55,000 per door or $1.98 million. That's our purchase price. All right, the property sits in a B area, but appears to look like a C property. We are buying the property at a 7.2% on actual numbers, not pro forma, which is a little bit strong right now, although not so much right now. Right now we're in the COVID era, so this actually is pretty realistic cap rate right now for this type of property. But I actually just pulled today and we're still seeing 5s and low 6s in a lot of the country, which is still a little bit surprising. I still think we have some opportunity on the horizon. All right. So the rents for this community is $600 average, right? We have 36 units, that's 600 equals 21,600 per month. That's your income. 21,600 a month times 12 months, there's your annual gross income, 259,200. Estimated expense load. Now we use this number because it's a great metric. Some people will say 50-50, but some people you're going to evaluate these multifamily properties, especially in Texas, and they're going to say their expenses are 25%. There's no way a multifamily center is operating at 25% expenses. It just doesn't exist. I mean, number one, your taxes are usually a massive chunk. So if that's the case, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? So generally speaking, it's a safe bet if you're going to assume, at least in Texas, every market's a little bit different because your taxes and insurance will be different. But there's going to be some expense level. You need to understand what this metric is. In Texas, a 45%, you should be pretty safe. If it's wildly mismanaged and they're showing you that their expenses are 55, that's your upside. Because you should be able to get that number down to 45 if you do some things properly. Implement a RUB system or whatever it is. We can talk about that later. But 45% should be your expense load. That means your net operating income is the other 55%. Your profit before taxes and debt service is that 55%, okay? So let's look at that. That 55%, so 259,200 times 0.55, that equals 142,560. That's before debt service, but that's your NOI, and that's our magic number. If you remember the last module on investment sales, that's the number we want to find. All right, so if you want to do that reverse, which we showed y'all during the homework, we asked you to work some numbers, but 142,560, which is your NOI, you divide that by your cap rate, which is 7.2% or 0.072, and we're right back to our purchase price, 1.98 million, okay? All right, so let's assume the units haven't been upgraded in a while. So this happens a lot, right? An owner who's a mom and pop or out of town, they buy the property, it's cash flowing well, they do this for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They don't really make any renovations unless someone calls about their water heater, the AC goes out, but their countertops are fine. They may just replaster 1 or 2. The bathroom may get chipped, they'll replace that, whatever it is. But they're not going out of their way to make any major renovations. They're just enjoying their facility, and it's time for them to exit. It's time for them to move or buy something bigger. All right, so here's a list of potential items you would look at renovating, right? On the exterior, and there's quite a few. There's lots of stuff you can do. You don't need to do all of them, but this is a good mental icebreaker to get some ideas. And this is for like this is for this community, but the same thing applies when you're thinking about retail, industrial, or office. Adding community-wide walking trail, obviously not for industrial. Entry landscaping, exterior landscape plan, all new concrete sidewalks. You know, a lot of these older facilities have, I don't want to say destroyed parking lots or really messed up sidewalks, but the sidewalks aren't secured by much. If you have large trees nearby, they're going to pop those up. The soil's going to settle, right? Things are going to happen there. The same with the parking lot. Your parking lot is all kinds of screwed up. That's a lot of traffic. You may need to restripe. Clubhouse renovations, pool, add or renovate, new dumpster enclosure, painting and siding throughout, add grills and seating areas, basketball area, family movie center inside clubhouse. Right now, apparently pickleball is a big thing, so add a pickleball court. Exterior lighting, new signage, access control gates, pergolas, outdoor kitchen area, a barbecue for the community, right? Interior. Now, what are some items for the interior? How about new flooring, wood plank vinyl, and new carpet, right? Upgrade appliances, upgrade finishes, plumbing, electrical, trim, new lighting, drywall repairs, and painting all units. New cabinets, new front door paint, replace all vents and plug covers, clean all ducts, new thermostats. I mean, those new cool thermostats are pretty cheap and they just look awesome. I don't know why I like them so much, but I think they really make if you're looking at an apartment and you see that, mentally I'm thinking, wow, they've taken care of this place. This is really renovated and updated. I don't know why. It's just, when I see that, I think of this has been taken care of. Modern LED lighting, right? Okay, so those are some of the mind joggers or whatever you need to think about or options you could do to renovate a property. A lot of these smaller facilities though, they're not gonna have a large outdoor, they're not gonna have a pool. They may have an area for some picnic tables and a grill. They just wanna make sure it's fenced in, or if there's a fence, it looks nice. You may have a grill, you may have a seating area, but it's too small. It's only 36 units, but the interior stuff is important. So for this particular property, let's assume we need to spend about $3,500 a door on renovations. So the property is okay, but we want it to look and compete with the B location. All right, so again, we're spending $3,500 a door on renovations. So 3,500 times 36 units, our budget's $126,000. What will be done? New exterior paint, new front door paint, new flooring in all units, and upgrade all appliances with new thermostats. Outdoor landscaping is also touched up, renamed the complex, and made the outside look a little more modernized. So not a crazy amount, but enough to equal 3,500. And usually you get that price a little bit down because you're doing scale. If we're doing all the units, we buy a ton of carpet, you get a massive discount. If you're buying anything at scale, ask for a discount. More than likely, they're gonna give it to you. Even at Lowe's, you can go to Lowe's at Home Depot and just buy 5 things and said, you know, is there any way I can get 10% off this bill today? You'd be surprised. I'm sure they'll love me talking about that. All right, our units here are about 785 square feet. So that's the average unit size. That means that our rents are at 0.76 a foot. That's $600 per month divided by 785. That's 0.764 per foot. The B apartments are going for 0.93 cents per foot on average in the same area. Just upgraded, nicer, newer. That's a pretty reasonable jump right there. That's not quite 20 cents, but it's pretty good. All right, so what's the potential rent if we could increase and compete with the Bs? 785 times 0.93, that gives you 730 up from 600, an increase of $130 per unit. So you're probably asking yourself, yeah, but I have to spend $126,000 to get that. What the heck is $130 a unit going to do for me? Well, let's check it out. All right, let's run these numbers. Let's see if this is a good deal or not. This is what you got to do. It may not be a good deal. That's why you have due diligence. That's why you investigate. That's why you make sure. All right. So again, recap. How do we look at purchase day? Purchase price 1.98. Price per unit, $55,000. Unit 36, rent $600 on average. Expenses 45% of total rent. It's a Class C property in a B area. Cap rate 7.2% at purchase. It needs some updating. Our NOI currently is $142,560. We assume we need to spend $3,500 per door on updating. After upgrading, we can expect $130 rent bump per unit. Right, there's the recap. Total cost of renovation, $126. 6 months after renovation, how do we look after all? All right, purchase price plus rehab costs, we're into the property all in for 2.106. New price per unit, 58,500. You just divide that by 36. Unit still 36. New rent, 730.05. Expenses are still 45% of total rent. Class B property in a B area. Now, again, I'll stop right there because I say expenses are 45% of total rent. What's going to happen is they're going to drop down a little bit because the taxes haven't caught up to your new renovation. But when they are going to catch up is if the county knows you did that much of a renovation, they're going to reassess. Then it's your job to go beat them up and go knock them down. The taxes will also jump at your sale. We're a non-disclosure state here in Texas, but they somehow find out you sold it, we know it, we're going to reassess, reevaluate, and those taxes are going to jump up. What I always try and do is ballpark, look, there's a high probability that the taxes are going to jump. So I'm going to cap it at, say, 80% of our purchase price. I don't think they're ever going to get to 100% of our purchase price, but they're going to jump. If they were at 60%, we're going to have a 20% jump to 80%, and that's what I'm hedging on. I'm betting on to be, safe, to protect my investors, to protect myself, protect our evaluation, be conservative. You can always beat them down, but that's why I kept that at 45%. We're going to assume the taxes are going to rise up with the valuation. So now it's a Class B property in a B area. We raised the level of our asset. And again, this isn't only for multifamily. The same rules apply for retail, industrial, or office. Instead of units where you're renting for a house, you're renting those units for a manufacturing site, for a tech center, a data, whatever it is. You're still renting. It still needs rehab. You can still raise the rent. All right, so our new NOI, based on that 730.05 rent, is 173,459.88. That's our new NOI. So is this a good deal? Right? I don't know. I like the NOI. I mean, it looks better, right? But we had to spend $126,000. What are we talking about here? All right, so at purchase, 1.98, NOI 142, 7.2 cap rate. 6 months later, and $126,000 in reno cost, 2.106 purchase and reno, 173,459 NOI. If we sell this at the exact same cap rate, our new value, so you figure that out by 173,459, your NOI divided by 0.072 again, 2.409165. How do you like that now? Right? So 2406 minus your 198 minus your 126 renovation, that's a $303,000 profit in 6 months. This is a realistic opportunity. $303,000 in equity created in 6 months on a 36 unit complex. If you take 2406 divided by 1.98, that's 1.25. That's a 21.5% net increase. That's awesome. That's a big win. 21% in 6 months. Right? What if this was 100 units? What about 200? Right? The same numbers apply here, guys. 100 units, 55 a door, rehab. I just ran the same numbers. 5.85 million all-in cost based on those numbers right there at 100 units. 730.05 new rate. Your NOI, look at that difference in NOI. $6.692 million. $842,000 in equity. That's a win. That's at 100 units. Same principles apply. What about 200? Let's run through it again. 11.7 all-in costs based on the same numbers. 963 NOI. New value, 13.3 million. 1.68 million in equity you just created in 6 months because you took a 200 unit complex that was underperforming in the marketplace, had not been updated, and the rents were below market. That is why syndicators love multifamily. They love finding opportunities like this because they're out there, and that is a big jump in net worth. That's a big jump in equity. If you have that much of a pull in equity and you still want to maintain ownership, you just do a cash out refi. You cash out refi, you pull some of your capital out. Wow, got a big storm outside. All right, so action item number 1. All right, complete the following exercises. Look at 10 deals this week, any asset type as long as they are an investment. Evaluate your top 3 and then say why. Action item number 2. Continue to contact your top 3 buckets that you agreed were non-negotiable must-dos. Start time blocking to contact 20 people per day, specifically asking for new business, or to start looking for new opportunities for them. Right? How can we get you into that first deal today? Right? What needs to happen? We're here to help. Go to the community. How can we help you get there? And that's all I got for this module, guys. I'm going to stop that screen share. But repositioning, redevelopment is a fantastic opportunity to have your jump in net worth. There's tons of people looking for opportunity like this. Unfortunately, it can be very challenging to find. So it can be a time waster if they're too unrealistic given your market. So just be wary, ask questions to local brokers. Like, I mean, have you guys seen anything like this in the last 5 years, right? Don't waste your time, because while you're educating and learning, you still need to make money. So we got to get you into deals that are realistic and humming along, your tenant rep, your landlord rep, and then go whale hunt once in a while for these syndications, right? So again, thanks guys for showing up today. Knock that homework out. The more investment opportunities you review, the easier and faster you can evaluate in your head. So you're not going to know if deals are a good deal or a bad deal until you start evaluating deals. So the sooner you can start knocking through deals, like every week, just pick a number. Every week, I'm going to review the numbers on 3 investment opportunities. Get to know the metrics, get to know why it's good, get to know what it's sold for, educate, lead gen, follow up. Thanks guys so much. And we'll see y'all at module 7 or in a live training class or in the mastermind. Let's go.